Hi everyone, welcome to After Dark Analysis. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. To add to the small channel walkthrough video I did, I also opened up a collaboration. These videos are the results of that. All the creators featured in this video will be linked down below. I'd just like to take a moment out to thank everybody who participated, and specifically thank R쏘ᴇᴇᴏ, who really pushed this project. I wouldn't have reached half as many people as I did without R쏘ᴇᴇᴏ. So thank you, I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you guys find some cool new channels.
Why do you resent me? Was it something I said? Is it how I look? Or what I do? All I ask is an answer. I remain humble in your response, patient and waiting for you to impart your responses to me. But I have yet to hear your reply, so I ask why. Why won't you love me like you used to? Why can't we have the same love we used to have? What changed? Did I not love you enough? I spent every moment I could, did so much to help, spent every minute I could spare with you. I showed my love every chance I could. Or was I just not enough? Did I not do enough for you? Was what I did the least? Or did you just need more? I think you just wanted more. I think you needed some more time. Time, I think, to give you. But no, you didn't want that. Nor did you need it. Maybe I wasn't enough then. Maybe I wasn't enough of a lover. I didn't show you how I was a fighter, so now I'll prove to you just how much I am a killer. No, there's no going back now. After all that I've been through, after all you've put me through, I'll do my best to stay true once I am done dispatching you. You brought this upon yourself. There will be no escape, no one to save you, no one to hear you cry. It's just you and I. I want to hear bones break, to feel flesh peel itself back, to smell and taste blood, and to see you split in two. You will feel my resentment as I, for the last time, feel you.
So, how much for the girl? I've dealt with punks like this one before, but I've never been this desperate. It shows in my voice. Sorry man, no can do. Come on, don't fuck with me. How much? Anger spews from my throat. I won't risk losing the girl. She deserves better than to live the rest of her life rotting. Look, I told you, we ain't selling. Now take your ass home, old man. My brow furrows. I keep pressing. Don't pretend there isn't a price. Just tell me what it is. I'll pay anything. How much for the girl? You really think she's special, huh? I nod. Well, here's the deal, man. We're about to shove off, and we're all set as is. So frankly, I think your best bet is to go walk the dogs and try to find someone else. The girl isn't going anywhere. Capiche? I look at the girl, pretty young thing, just blossoming into a young woman. Beautiful. I know it'll be wrong if I take her back home with me. It wouldn't be right. But I can't help what I can't control. Look, There is no one else. Now, would you please listen to me? Listen to reason for a minute. She's perfect. I love her. I want to take care of her. So, fuck! How much for the girl, you son of a bitch? Nah, we're done here. Fuck you very much. Have a nice life, Gramps. Oh, and stay safe. With numb eyes and a nauseous heart, I watched the boat begin its departure, the final evacuation from our quarantined, plague-soaked island. I'm so sorry, dear. I tried, but there was no room, I whispered between sobs, clutching my granddaughter in my arms.
I was lying alone in my room when I heard the voice, deep and crackly, coming from beneath my bed. "Hey," the voice called out. I told myself I was just imagining it. "Hey kid," the voice repeated. I drew my knees up to my chest and ducked my head under the blanket, trying to shut out the voice and the cold wind that drifted in through the window, ruffling the curtains. "Who are you?" I asked. "I'm the monster underneath your bed," the voice replied. "You mean you're real?" I asked. "What do you mean?" the monster said. "Of course I'm real." "Do you have a name?" I asked. "Of course I have a name." "Oh, well, what is it?" "Frank." "Frank?" "Yeah," the monster said. "Is there something wrong with that?" "No, I mean, I don't know," I said. "It just doesn't sound very monsterly." "Well, my parents didn't want me to be a monster." "Really? What did they want you to be?" "A dentist." That's funny," I said. I could feel myself beginning to smile. "What do your parents want you to be?" it asked. I don't know." "Hey, Frank?" "Yeah?" "Aren't you gonna, scare me or something?" "What? Why would I do that?" "Well, you're a monster, aren't you?" "Well, yeah, of course I am, but that doesn't mean I scare little kids." "But I thought that was your job." "It is my job to scare people," he replied, "but only bad people." "Am I a bad person?" I asked. "No," he said, "but you're not the one I'm here to scare." "Who are you here to scare?" I asked. "The man inside your closet." The skin on my arms goose-fleshed up. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but I fell silent as I heard a rustling coming from the closet. The door creaked open and I could hear soft footsteps padding towards me across the bedroom floor. I didn't dare peek out the blankets. The footsteps stopped, and I could hear heavy breathing next to me. I squeezed my eyes tight. The warm sanctuary of the blanket disappeared as it was yanked off me. I hugged my arms around my knees and prepared for the worst. A scream shattered the night air, followed by the sound of breaking glass. I opened my eyes a crack to see a knife lying on the carpet next to my bed, the blade glinting in the moonlight. My parents rushed into my room and asked me what happened, but I didn't know what to say. Only that someone had been hiding in my closet and they jumped out the window. My parents called 911 and the police came right away. They picked up a man called Gary Thompson sprinting through the streets a couple blocks away. He was covered in blood and broken glass. They found Gary's car abandoned on our property, and inside they found duct tape, knives, barbiturates, and a video camera. From what I heard, Gary's lawyer employed an insanity defense, and Gary is currently incarcerated in a state of mental facility for the criminally insane. I never heard from Frank the Monster again, but the officer who arrested Gary told me that he sleeps on the floor of the facility. He tells the doctors he's terrified of Frank, the monster under his bed.
They think my neighbor, Mr. Howard Bowden, is a murderer. The police know something is up. There's been cops all around this area for a few days, but he's kept his cool. until recently. You can tell the heat is getting to him. This isn't some criminal mastermind we're talking about here. Everyone in the neighborhood knows he's a temperamental jackass, but nobody thought he was capable of killing someone. But the evidence is piling up, and boy, oh boy, it does not look good for old Howie over here. He's been pacing around his half of the duplex, muttering to himself, alternating between crying and punching the walls in frustration. God, he's so annoying. I so regret renting this duplex. Now, I'm stuck here with him, stomping around and chanting, "Get it together, Howard," over and over again. Great. I know it's just a matter of time till they arrest him, but God, I hope it's sooner rather than later. He's buried my body under the back porch, and all I really want now is some goddamn peace and quiet.
Thank you for watching. I always appreciate the support you show me, and I'm forever grateful for it. Hope everyone had a wonderful day. All my social media information is in the description box below. All the story, music, and image information is below as well. And don't forget, I'll see you when the lights go out.
Things got off to a rocky start this morning. I awoke to find a dead man lying in my bed. Even more strange, he looked moderately familiar, but I couldn't place him. The ever-widening mystery of how he came to be in my residence was a real head-scratcher. I didn't want to hazard a guess as to why he was beside me in bed either. That was just too disturbing to focus on. I started to telephone the police, but stopped myself. Whoever he was, he probably had a family and loved ones. He deserved to be treated in a dignified manner, not poked and prodded like a science experiment. I looked around for clues to his identity. Finding nothing in the immediate vicinity, I widened my search. As I looked around some more, I found various family photos scattered about. The dead man did resemble a few of the portraits, but I still couldn't be sure it was the same individual. You see, the dead man was already a bit bloated and stinky. Something definitely had to be done about him soon. I suppose I intended to alert his family first, if they could be located. If not, then the police would have to do their job and find them. I just hated the thought of the man's family receiving a phone call or even an impersonal house visit with the bad news. I wanted to break it to them gently. I kept coming back to his unknown identity. Who was the dead man? I knew his face. I definitely knew him. I could pull bits and pieces about him from memory, but not enough detail to actually identify the poor sap. It was at the very edge of my consciousness. It was so close I could feel it. The whole ordeal was agonizing. I took another look at the photos I found, hoping they would jar my memory and break it free. Was it the guy in the images? I was certain it was. Memories came flooding back. He was definitely younger, less bloated, and not deceased, but it absolutely was the same guy. It was me.
Johnny was having a tough time readjusting to life after the move. They had moved after Steve had lost his job. His father knew it was difficult being moved from your home and forced to make friends in a new school. He had gone through it himself when he was young, and he empathized, which was why he decided to do something nice for him. He had just lost another one of his baby teeth, and Steve sat down with him and explained how he had talked to the tooth fairy and convinced him to increase the price for teeth to $5, as Johnny had been such a good boy lately. Johnny's eyes lit up the next morning when he found $5 under his bed. He excitedly talked about buying a new Game Boy so he could play Pokemon with his friends. Steve told him that $5 would not be enough. He had meant to discourage him. He planned on giving his son a Game Boy in a few months when his birthday rolled around. Johnny stuck out his lips and pouted. It was tough seeing him like that, but he didn't have the money for the new system yet. Johnny, however, wanted it now, and he had a plan. Steve woke up to a horrible scene the next morning. Johnny was at the kitchen table with pliers in his hand. Blood stained his mouth and the front of his shirt. In front of him were 6 tiny teeth. Steve could only watch in shock as his son angled the pliers back towards his mouth and burbled through the blood. "Just 2 more, and I'll have enough."
The rainy season began in early summer, and June had been no exception. It did not surprise the man when he discovered rainwater dripping from his dining room ceiling. Shrugging it off, he placed a tall pot beneath the leak and expected it to stop on its own. However, it continued to rain, and before he knew it, the pot would threaten to overflow. He had to dump the water out first thing in the morning and straight after he returned home from work. Eventually, he began to notice water damage at the source of the leak. The white ceiling had discolored, turning a dull shade of brown. He checked the weather and realized it would continue to rain sporadically over the next 10 days. The man was worried about the ceiling mildewing and becoming an expensive repair, so he called a local handyman. Unfortunately, the man could not sign to have the repairs done. Only his landlord could. It was a frustrating policy. The man called his landlord but could not reach him. He left him a few voicemails detailing how the damage was becoming progressively worse. The man was clueless as to why his landlord would not return his calls. They usually kept in touch, speaking at least twice a month. Finally, he reasoned that he would not be held accountable for any damages sustained. One night, the man was startled awake by a massive thump. He quickly turned on his bedside lamp, and just vaguely, he could see an overturned table and a large shape laying across it. He sprinted out of his apartment and called the police, gagging at the smell. While the man waited, he called his landlord and finally reached him. Panicking, he explained the situation. His landlord was just as alarmed, and the man pleaded for him to come to the station while he made his statement. The man paused as the detective crossed over to him and lowered his phone, wondering if the body had been identified. His blood ran immediately cold, and he shook his head with terror. The body belonged to Richard Thompson, his landlord, and he had died over a year ago. That's not what disturbed him the most. If his landlord was dead, then who was pretending to be him?
In 1914, the Newfoundland, sailed up to the ice with a crew of 250 men. On March 30th, 77 men went out on the ice to kill seals. A mighty storm came up while the men were out. That lasted 2 days, and the men could not make it back to the ship. When the storm ceased, other ships came and helped the crew of the Newfoundland search for the missing men. 72 were found dead, and 5 were missing and presumed drowned. The ship sailed home in sorrow and did not go to the ice at all the next year. She was considered to be unlucky. To break the curse, the ship was rebuilt and changed so that she would drown no more men. Her new name was the San Blanford, and she was sent to the ice 2 years after the terrible storm. On the 30th day of March, she met up with another ship called the Terra Nova. As dusk fell, a fog rolled in, and the crew of the San Blanford heard the Terra Nova blowing her whistle. This was a signal that she still had men out on the ice. As was customary, the crew of the San Blanford started blowing their whistle, and those above deck could hear voices calling out from the ice, and presumed they belonged to sailors from the Terra Nova. The 2 ships kept up their signals until 10 p.m., when the voices ceased, and all were presumed safely aboard ship. The next morning, a sailor from the San Blanford boarded the Terra Nova to conduct some business. The captain of the ship immediately asked the sailor what time the members of the San Blanford crew had gotten aboard the previous night. The sailor was puzzled. "We didn't have anyone out on the ice, sir," he told the captain. But the captain and his crew swore they had seen several men board the San Blanford shortly before 10 p.m. When the sailor returned to the San Blanford, he reported the incident to his captain. The captain took him quietly aside and told him that the report was true. A few members of the night crew had seen 5 men climb aboard the San Blanford shortly before 10 p.m. The men were wearing tattered clothing and looked as if they had been ripped and worn out by the waves of the sea, and the crew could see right through their shining bodies. One of the sailors on duty that evening had been on the Newfoundland when she lost the 77 men 2 years ago that very night. He had recognized the faces of the ghosts as those belonging to the 5 men who were presumed drowned. Their spirits had finally returned to the ship from which they had been lost, and could now rest in peace. Alright, my lovely lilies, thank you so much for watching the new video. If you can, hit that subscribe and like button, comment below and tell me your thoughts. Also, don't forget to tap the little notification bell so you're always in the know on this channel. As well, guys, you can always find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and always you can hit me up in my emails. Feel free to send me your stories, whether they're fiction or totally true. I'm always up for some great stories. And oh, by the way, until next time, sweet dreams.
These types of stories are becoming all too popular down under. There's a slew of backpacker murders which continue constantly. Brits and Europeans come here to experience the carefree beach lifestyle, to feel the burning red outback beneath their feet. This is just another story. Unfortunately, it's true. Me and my mate hit the road and found ourselves in deep bushland. In Australia, you'll die out here. We spotted a couple of dingoes pacing back and forth in the distance. We couldn't get there by car. The bush was too dense. So we hiked through to see what was up. Something was on the ground, dark red, fleshy. We yelled at the wild dogs to scram and walked up, figuring it was a dead animal. It wasn't. It was a woman whose legs had been gnawed at, but she was still alive. The worst part is her face had been peeled off, with her eyelids cut off, tissue and flesh protracted out of her face. Her tears stung the raw, open flesh. We tried to call for help. I left back for the car. The nearest town was over 1 hour away. I eventually returned with the police in tow. My friend was gone, as was the woman and any trace of her. That was 3 years ago. I regret leaving them behind.
I was lying alone in my room when I heard the voice, deep and crackly, coming from beneath my bed.
"Hey,"
the voice called out. I told myself I was just imagining it.
"Hey, kid,"
the voice repeated. I drew my knees up to my chest and ducked my head under the blanket, trying to shut out the voice and the cold wind that drifted in through the window, ruffling the curtains. "Who are you?" I asked.
"I'm the monster underneath your bed,"
the voice replied. "You mean you're real?" I asked.
"What do you mean?"
the monster said.
"Of course I'm real."
"Do you have a name?" I asked.
"Of course I have a name."
"Oh. Well, what is it?"
"Frank."
"Frank?"
"Yeah."
the monster said.
"Is there something wrong with that?"
No. I don't know," I said. "It's just not very monsterly."
"Well, my parents didn't want me to be a monster."
"Really? What did they want you to be?"
"A dentist."
"That's funny," I said. I could feel myself beginning to smile.
"What do your parents want you to be?"
it asked. "I don't know. Hey, Frank."
"Yeah?"
"Aren't you gonna, scare me or something?"
"What? Why would I do that?"
"Well, you're a monster, aren't you?"
"Well, yeah, of course I am. But that doesn't mean that I scare little kids."
"But I thought that was your job."
"It is my job to scare people,"
he replied.
"But only bad people."
"Am I a bad person?" I asked.
"No,"
he said.
"But you're not the one I'm here to scare."
"Who are you here to scare?" I asked.
"The man inside your closet."
The skin on my arms goose-fleshed up. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but I fell silent as I heard a rustling coming from the closet. The door creaked open, and I could hear soft footsteps padding towards me across the bedroom floor. I didn't dare peek out of the blanket. The footsteps stopped, and I could hear heavy breathing next to me. I squeezed my eyes tight. The warm sanctuary of the blanket disappeared as it was yanked off me. I hugged my arms around my knees and prepared for the worst. A scream shattered the night air, followed by the sound of breaking glass. I opened my eyes a crack to see a knife lying on the carpet next to my bed, blade glinting in the moonlight. My parents rushed into the room and asked me what had happened, but I didn't know what to say, only that someone had been hiding in my closet and they'd jumped out the window. My parents called 911 and the police came right away. They picked up a man called Gary Thompson sprinting through the streets a couple of blocks away. He was covered in blood and broken glass. They found Gary's car abandoned on our property, and inside they found duct tape, knives, barbiturates and a video camera. From what I heard, Gary's lawyer employed an insanity defense, and Gary is currently incarcerated in a state mental facility for the criminally insane. I never heard from Frank the Monster again, but the officer who arrested Gary told me that he sleeps on the floor of the facility. He tells the doctors that he's terrified of Frank, the monster under his bed.